Hey, welcome to Red Canary's joint solution presentation. Today we're going to be covering how Red Canary and Jamf work together to deliver Red Canary's expert security on Apple devices via Jamf Protect. Jamf Protect is the latest endpoint telemetry solution to enter Red Canary's advanced detection program and is the solution we turn to when customers are looking for Apple native support. So in this session, we're going to cover the benefits of that partnership and look at a technical demo that includes some simulated walkthroughs. Please note this session will be recorded and we have a TLP green on it, meaning feel free to share with peers and partner organizations within the cybersecurity community. All sensitive customer information is redacted or simulated. That said, I'm pleased to introduce our host for the discussion, me. I'm Brandon Kirkland, Product Manager at Red Canary with a focus on endpoint products, and I support Red Canary's MDR service layered on top of Jamf Protect. Outside of being a security nerd and day, I am a native of our host city today, San Diego. So I live right up in the street from our host venue with my partner and my cats. If you want some amazing photo spots, some great foodie restaurants, or want to be inundated with even more pictures of my lovely but loud kitties, hit me up. Bit on my background, I started off my career studying optical engineering in undergrad, got into fiber optics and networking until one day in my optics lab, we started learning about quantum tunneling and some of the security implications there. And I got to tell you, I was hooked after that. Basically, what we were learning about at the time was this concept that allows you to tap into a fiber optic cable without breaking the fiber itself. By positioning a fiber optic cable close to another one, about 1 to 3 millimeters, you can cause the light to jump or tunnel into the other fiber even through a classically impenetrable barrier, like the plastic cladding, and be able to read the data from that other fiber without anyone noticing. Obviously, this ends up kind of breaking the expected model with the fiber cable and has some really interesting security considerations. So thinking about that problem and that problem space is what really launched me into security as a career. From there, I first started getting into network security, tapping into database networks, generating a lot of data from full packet captures, looking for behavioral stability, and basically creating what amounted to be a lot of alert noise. The consistent feedback I was getting as a product manager in that space was a big so what? And that's what really brought me here to Red Canary. Better than anyone else I could see in the security space, we're really good at taking large volumes of that same kind of data I was creating back in NDR land and distilling it down to what's actually useful at the end of the day. And I'm really excited to share how we do that today. Here's a couple pictures of the kitties and my partner too. So this is Oliver and Pippin. Oliver is our quality assurance or destructive testing engineer, and Pippin is our mealtime alerting. He always makes sure that we never miss second breakfast. So let's talk about a little bit of our agenda today. We're going to cover who is Red Canary, a little bit of the Jamf side as well, talk about our joint solution as well as the benefits of utilizing it. And then at the end, we're going to get into a demo of both the Jamf and the Red Canary platforms together. Starting off with a bit about who we are. So what we do is we deliver managed detection and response across your IT environment with the goal of protecting your organization from the next cybersecurity breach. And we do this by combining a number of key services across threat hunting, detection, investigation, and remediation. Touching briefly on each of those, threats don't operate 9 to 5, so our experts are available to you at any time. Threats don't just hit endpoints, so we cover production environments, cloud workloads, SaaS threat feeds, identity, email, and network too, extending MDR beyond the endpoint. We proactively educate not just our customers, but our industry as a whole by releasing threat intelligence regularly and through our robust Atomic Red Team open source projects. And most importantly, in my mind, we answer that so what question by enabling response and remediation via automated workflows and orchestration, as well as humans at keys with our incident handlers jumping in whenever needed. Taking this response one step even further, we also offer active remediation with 24/7 hands-on keys threat remediation. So we'll start by illustrating why we partnered with Jamf and what makes Jamf a unique EDR for Apple endpoints and how Red Canary helps customers get the most out of their Jamf deployment. So the biggest reason that we partnered with Jamf Protect was the addition of Apple native protection of malware protection for macOS. Jamf Protect is able to natively prevent known malware from running on macOS endpoints, regardless of the macOS version, and really lets you pursue a robust and active patching program. This is one of the biggest pain points for end users and most common type of threat that we see here at Red Canary. With that telemetry that Jamf Protect provides, in addition to native blocking, we're able to supplement and enhance that with our custom response playbooks. So this lets you utilize Jamf Pro integrations to isolate an affected endpoint, get email or Slack notifications, trigger off of other products operating in your environment, all within Red Canary. So combining Jamf threat intelligence with Red Canaries really lets us both get better together. And this extends to unwanted applications or riskware software that we see too. So malware is neat and all, but where this gets especially cool is when we start to dig into how Jamf and Red Canary work together to find novel and more difficult threats. Using Jamf Protect as a base, both the native alerts as well as the telemetry, Red Canary digs into those with our expert humans. Via an S3 telemetry export, process data, file mods, net connection, log on, log off events, and more all flow into Red Canary's SOC, where we correlate that telemetry both with the native EDR alerts as well as with the rest of your IT environment. We then standardize that telemetry versus our internal models and correlate that with all the other data that we have. This extends Jamf's protection outside of your macOS endpoints and provides a comprehensive coverage across SaaS, identity, email, production environments, etc. Once we review the combined advanced detections, we then publish and start taking actions. This comes about via automated playbooks in our portal, as well as user notifications. This allows us to pivot from a Jamf Protect alert to a Jamf Pro isolation action, to an Okta identity restriction, and then Slack and email alerts to your team. To talk a little bit of the combined value here, what we really want to do is amplify the Apple native support here. One of the successes of Apple native is the day of release for all Apple releases. And this really lets you continue with that patching program like we were discussing. It covers that security gap, gives a really great immediate time to value, helps us out on that front too. It also lets us take the Jamf Protect alerts that are created there and get them all reviewed by our cert. So it helps you out as a force multiplier on your end, enabling a really rapid response to those alerts that are coming in. Getting into more on the so what side that we were mentioning for Red Canary. This is an example of a Red Canary customer that's utilizing a Jamf Protect endpoint solution. So across around 900 total endpoints, this is kind of what we're looking at from the cost savings on the last year. With Red Canary, you're able to respond with this informed confidence. Every one of these confirmed threats is investigated by our detection engineers. To confirm those detections, we verify those with another human, annotate what we find to really deepen our understanding there, and really drive that mean time to remediation reduction. So you can see that kind of across each one of these categories here. We start off with that raw telemetry, a ton of endpoint events, so we end up getting 812 million telemetry records. And this all filters down to make 4 high severity detections, unlikely to be caught by your EDR alone, and less likely to be caught when, even less likely to pull in your other products. That's what really gets that mean time to remediation reduction, answers that so what with the plethora of data that we get, and ultimately accomplishes Red Canary's mission of enabling every organization, regardless of whether they're a customer or not, to make their greatest impact. Red Canary's difference really starts at onboarding. So we immediately partner with you and connect you with our incident handling teams and detection engineers to set up automations, deployments, and configurations. Combined with Jamf's help, we make sure that your whole security ecosystem is well configured, properly deployed, and tested. On an ongoing basis, our threat research and threat intelligence teams are reviewing and investigating the latest macOS threats in the wild. We publish that intelligence into the Red Canary portal. We work closely with the Jamf security teams as well to partner with them there. We do that through like Jamf Protect native integrations, putting out great global ban lists into the hashes that we see. Our incident handlers understand macOS threats better than anyone else in the industry. They're macOS threat experts. And we love to be able to partner with a telemetry source such as this to really enable that. We know how to look for macOS threats compared to Windows and Linux. Together with Jamf, we really help each other be the best on macOS. And in the event of the worst happening, we're ready to help. Our incident handlers jump in whenever they're needed. We have some proactive outreach as far as critical threats to make sure that our environments keep up and running. And we're really excited to dig into some of those threats today. Just to start off our demos today, first, I want to show the configuration aspect of the solution. So first, we're going to log into our Jamf Protect client, and that's going to let us set up our telemetry export into Red Canary. To do that, we first start off by creating an API client. We already have a key in here set up for allowing us to take actions after we upload this into Red Canary. Let's see one of my samples in here. Next, we go into the configuration of the data forwarding. So this is where we get the telemetry from Jamf and send that over into S3. That's where it's picked up by the Red Canary engine and standardizers with some other various configuration parameters here. Next up, we configure a Jamf plan. This is where we have our various action configurations to properly groom this telemetry before it's sent over into Red Canary. And then finally, as part of this plan, we start to enable a number of analytics. So these analytics are what tell the endpoints to send data into Red Canary. As you can see here, we're collecting a bunch of various event types from all the endpoints that this is pushed out to, as well as any of those native analytics that we're interested from Jamf as well. We can see this here with all the event types set up there. Next up, we can hop over into the Red Canary portal with our demo portal here. In this case, we have a number of different endpoints that are checking in and sending us telemetry. These are our various test machines that are sending us telemetry. So they tend to send telemetry to Red Canary, where we then analyze those with our detection suites. And then with any suspicious activities that occur in there, we publish them into threats inside the Red Canary portal. We can see an example of this in one of our testing devices. Right here, let's go with one of the, here, we'll do an unwanted software one. So utilization of some peer-to-peer software, we can see this down into the process level, getting this information from Jamf Protect, where then we're able to configure and take various remediation actions off of it. So this can be endpoint isolation, notifications, all the various pieces that let us remediate the threat that we see. Next up, we're going to jump into a few more realistic threats that we've redacted in order to talk about here. So the first example that I want to look into today is an example of ad fraud. It's similar to other macOS malware families such as Bundlor and AdLoad, in that it performs ad fraud, although it's a slightly distinct family. This is delivered by yet another macOS family of threats called Slayer. While Period has been historically really tied into that ad fraud, the nature of the malware and mechanisms for that persistence turns it into a delivery mechanism for some more nefarious things. So for this reason, we classify it as malicious software, and you're going to see that in the risk scoring up here at the top. So that triple chevron there is a high severity detection, and it's escalated because of the potential for that nefarious payload delivery. So I've redacted it for this presentation, but usually it lists out the exact endpoint and identity that was related to this threat. We get some version information as well, so a good understanding of what's happening on that endpoint. These next two boxes will show us related items as well as a MITRE mapping. But the juicy stuff is actually underneath here in the threat timeline. So first we get into this process info. Seen here where we've marked up the first threat occurrence. We're able to match up this binary using third-party threat intel that tells us that we should be paying a special attention to how this is used. We put this in the annotation here underneath, as well as to make sure that our customers know what we're looking at. So a great record of what's happening and why. Digging in a little deeper here, we see how this malware attempts to detect if it's being detonated in a testing environment, looking for VM processes and such. This gives us the full context of what's happening on that endpoint, and then potentially also what we need to clean up. If they've left any persistence on the endpoint or other processes that we need to kill, file modifications and such. We get a little more context from our threat intelligence profiles that we associate with each one of these detections. So this gives us all the context for what this threat is and what's going on. These are our internal notes about the threats and what our detection engineers use to identify and train our detections too. All this is available freely in our portal. We really want to help educate our customers about the threats that they're seeing and enable you to respond quickly and accurately with pieces like this executive summary that you can just drop into a status update email. Underneath here, you'll also see the detections that contribute to this profile, as well as our reference research materials as well. The next advanced detection that I want to dig into is a Red Canary unique one, and it's called Silver Toucan. So this is a cluster of activity that we're seeing that's a dropper. Reviewing our DE's notes here up at the top, we know that this is another high severity detection with a flash exploit. So it's our name for a activity cluster looking at signed macOS malware used to deliver payloads and engage in some additional monetization activities. So they have some recent EULA changes that are pretty interesting as well. So digging into this threat timeline again, we can see how this masquerades as a legitimate update agent. And digging into this, we can see that we can't always trust this particular binary either. Here we see how this process is reaching out to AWS to grab that payload and able to see how it proceeds to attempt to do this install. And then finally, at the end of this timeline, we get to see the remediation. So in this case, we're able to leverage Jamf Protect hash banning to block this process across the whole of the install fleet, as we've identified that this IOC is an issue and help prevent that spread of it as well. We can always go further and take actions like endpoint isolation to prevent that spread too. We've also included the threat intel profiles attached to this threat as well, how we find this activity cluster and the ramifications of it in the ad load space, as well as how we typically see this activity play out. It includes some details of the remediation steps that we can take in order to all recover and keep going together. This wraps up the content that I was covering today. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you so much for joining.